been talking a lot about the code of the West, and this is how to make educated and informed decisions before purchasing property in Bonner County, Idaho. There is so much to cover. This little 10-page book couldn't even begin to cover it. You can see this house behind me. We were out here a week ago working on some of the grading and the backfilling around the house, and the framers have been working all week and have got the walls up. I would assume they're waiting on trusses. It's going to be a house in no time. Now that seems like that's pretty quick, that we were able to come in, dig a hole, pour concrete, they got the walls are up, but it's taken months and months and months to be able to get to this stage. There's so much to consider with utilities, the sewer, the power, water, and then site location. Some of the foundation heights versus where we could put that footing and how high those stem walls would have to be to get up to grade. There's in that what you see here, there's probably 150 decisions that had to be made to get to this point. When you think about the road access, the sewer, the water, the power, foundation, the site, where on the site, the setbacks, and all of those things. So it's taken a lot of time to get to this point where things are starting to happen. And I assume that with the nice weather and the framing moving along, that in another 90 days that house will be done and people will be moving in. Maybe 120, but certainly before winter people will be living here in that house. But it's probably going to take, I'll bet that if it takes say 6 months to build that house, it probably took 6 months or more to get everything teed up and ready to build that house. So let's talk about some of the things to consider as you're buying property. A lot of subdivisions have CC&Rs, or they might have shared road agreements, or they might have a road association or a water association or a shared leach field. And those are things that you're going to want to look into as you're looking at property, is looking at what is associated with, what are you getting into when you buy that particular property. There could be existing irrigation ditches or waterways or springs, seeps that may be wetter in that area than in other areas at different times of the year, and could be water moving underground or water moving from neighboring property through your property that is through a subterranean, whatever that might be, sand down there where water is leaching through the soil. So there's a lot to look at in buying that piece of property and digging into what might be there, and there could be some surprises. I've talked a lot about wetlands. You can see behind us here there's a lot of cottonwood trees, which indicates wetland, and there is some wetland back in there. Cottonwood trees require a massive amount of water, and so when I see cottonwood trees, I know that there's going to be some wetland in the area. But then I want to know where it is and the setbacks from that wetland and what the classification of that wetland is. Is it a major wetland? Is it a minor wetland? And a wetland specialist can answer those questions for you. Or at least getting on the National Wetland Mapper, which is a website that's free to use. You can go online, pull up that map, zoom into the area, and it has those wetland maps there. It also has a lot of good information about those maps and the wetlands that are there. I would highly recommend that you use that National Wetland Mapper to look at the wetlands in your area, especially if there's a piece of property that you're interested in. You know, one thing that's this particular property has a close proximity to Sandpoint, to Kootenai City, to Ponderay City. Now, this would be what's inside of what's called the area of city impact. And that means that the city at some point might want to talk about annexing this particular property into the city. So there's some advantages in that you're close to the city. You can get from here to Starbucks in 5 minutes. For some people, that's important. For other people, the risk that someday, 5, 10 years, this might be part of Ponderay City, which would have a different set of rules than the rules are currently with the county. That may be something to take into consideration. Am I buying in the proposed area of city impact? So those are things to consider. For some people, that's going to be super important. For others, maybe it doesn't matter. But you should be aware of it so that you can be an informed buyer. So the National Wetland Mapper, that's easy to find online to be able to look and see if there are wetlands in the area and if there are seasonal creeks or possible streams in the area. That's one of the big things found in the Code of the West book. So you want to check into that. Now, looking out here into the trees, there's probably not one of those, but there's lots of little streams. Sand Creek, Pack River, there are numerous little streams around, and you could purchase a 10-acre piece. You want to know that goes through your property or it doesn't go through your property, and you're going to want to know what the setbacks are and is there floodway, floodplain, those types of questions. So I think it's really important to jump on that National Wetland Mapper, look at the information, look at where wetlands might be, and get educated about wetlands and floodplain and waterways that are going to impact your property. And the other is getting on the Bonner County GIS map. It's free, it's easy to access, it's online, and there's a massive amount of information. In fact, Bonner County has taken the National Wetland Mapper and imported it as a layer. And you can click that layer on, turn that layer on the map, and see the wetlands as they overlay in Bonner County. Now, you'll notice that sometimes the imagery and the wetland map don't line up perfect, but it's an indicator that there is some out there in that general area and that you should be aware of it. So if you're thinking about buying property in North Idaho and Bonner County, I would encourage you to get on the Bonner County website, find the GIS map and that interactive map, and turn the layers on and look at some of those things that are there to help you make really good and better informed decisions about buying real estate and building a house. We're going to continue with the Code of the West, talking about utilities, talking about right-of-ways, talking about easements, and there's a lot more to talk about. Please put your comments down below. We'd like to hear about what you want to know more about. Maybe there's some of this stuff, maybe you've got questions. Put your questions down below, and in the next video we'll go through, we'll pull out those comments, those questions, and then we'll speak to them, and hopefully we can inform people and make moving to North Idaho, building in Bonner County, an easier time for people. It's just about providing information, helping to educate, giving people the information so they can make good, informed decisions before they buy property.
1, 2, 3. I've been feeling so small. Watch the clock ticking off the wall. But tonight I'm letting it go. Spend my coin for sure. I'm gonna be myself, or I could be someone else.